Jake Morrison sat in his small office on Luna Research Station, staring at a pile of old rocks that someone had shipped from Mars 3 weeks ago. The rocks looked boring, just like most of the stuff he studied as an archaeologist. He picked up his coffee mug and took a sip, then made a face. Cold again. The third time today. The heating system in his lab was terrible, and his coffee always went cold before he could finish it. He was about to get up and microwave his coffee when the lights in his office suddenly dimmed. A soft humming sound filled the air, like someone was running a very quiet vacuum cleaner. Jake looked around, confused. The humming got louder, and then a bright blue light appeared in the middle of his office. The light grew bigger and brighter, until Jake had to cover his eyes. When the light faded, 3 tall figures stood in his office. They looked nothing like humans. The one in front was made of what looked like living crystal, with sharp edges and multiple eyes that glowed soft purple. The other 2 were different shapes entirely, one looking like a walking tree made of metal, and the other resembling a floating jellyfish with too many tentacles. Jake blinked several times. He had been working late nights lately, so maybe he was seeing things. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The 3 aliens were still there, looking very real and very serious. The crystal being stepped forward and spoke. Its voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with a computer. Greetings, human Jake Morrison. We are representatives of the Zephyrian Council. I am Ambassador Vextara. Jake slowly set down his coffee mug. Hello? He said. I'm sorry, but visiting hours ended 3 hours ago. Also, we don't usually allow aliens in the research station without proper paperwork. The tree-like alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Ambassador Vextara tilted its crystalline head. We are not here for your standard protocols, human Jake Morrison. We are here because your species has reached a point where we must test your worthiness. My worthiness for what? Jake asked. He wondered if he should call security, but his phone was on the other side of the office, and the aliens were standing between him and the door. Your worthiness to join the Galactic community, Vextara said. The purple glow in its eyes grew brighter. For millions of years, the Zephyrian Council has watched young species develop. When they reach a certain level of advancement, we present them with a test. The floating jellyfish alien drifted closer and spoke in a voice that sounded like bubbles. Popping. Some species pass the test and ascend to higher levels of existence. Others fail and destroy themselves. A few rare species surprise us entirely. Jake looked at the 3 aliens, then at his cold coffee, then back at the aliens. Okay, he said slowly. What kind of test are we talking about here? Because I should mention that I was never very good at tests in school. Ambassador Vextara reached into what might have been a pocket in its crystalline body and pulled out a small black cube. The cube was perfectly smooth and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As Jake watched, tiny points of light appeared and disappeared inside the cube, like stars being born and dying in fast motion. This, Vextara said, holding the cube carefully with what Jake assumed were its hands, is a quantum resonance amplifier. It was created by the architects, a species that existed long before any of our civilizations began. The tree-like alien rustled its metal leaves. The architects vanished eons ago, but they left behind several of these devices. Each one contains the power to reshape matter at the quantum level. Jake stared at the cube. It was about the size of a coffee mug and seemed to pulse with an inner rhythm. That sounds dangerous, he said. Extremely dangerous, the jellyfish. Alien agreed. The last species we gave one to accidentally turn their home star into a black hole while trying to use it as a weapon. The species before that used it to transcend physical reality entirely, Vextara added. They still send us postcards from the 8th dimension, though we cannot read them. Jake nodded as if this all made perfect sense. And you want to give this thing to me, personally? Not to, like, the government or NASA or someone who knows what they're doing. You are a scholar of ancient things, Vextara said. Your work shows respect for the artifacts of lost civilizations. The Council has observed your careful handling of dangerous archaeological materials. Jake thought about the time last month. When he had accidentally dropped a supposedly priceless Martian pottery fragment and watched it shatter on the floor. He decided not to mention that incident. Ambassador Vexthara stepped forward and placed the cube on Jake's desk, right next to his pile of boring Mars rocks. "There are protocols you must follow," it said seriously. "First, you must meditate for no less than 6 hours before approaching the device. Second, you must align your spiritual energy with the quantum frequencies. Third, you must recite the 17 sacred equations while maintaining perfect mental clarity." The tree alien began listing additional safety procedures. Never expose the device to electromagnetic fields. Never allow it to come into contact with organic compounds. Never activate it while in the presence of gravitational anomalies or temporal distortions. The jellyfish alien added more warnings. The device responds to conscious intention. Stray thoughts can trigger catastrophic events. Fear can cause reality inversions. Anger can create matter-antimatter reactions. Jake listened to the increasingly complex list of dos and don'ts, nodding occasionally while looking at the cube on his desk. It sat there quietly, occasionally flashing with internal light. It was actually kind of pretty. After 20 minutes of safety briefings, warnings, and cosmic philosophy, the three aliens prepared to leave. "We will return in 1 lunar cycle to observe the results of your test," Vexthara announced. "Remember," the tree alien said, "the fate of your entire species rests on how you handle this artifact." "No pressure," the jellyfish alien added helpfully. The blue light appeared again, and the three aliens vanished as suddenly as they had arrived. Jake found himself alone in his office with a pile of Mars rocks, a cup of cold coffee, and what was apparently the most dangerous object in the galaxy sitting on his desk, like a very expensive paperweight. He stared at the cube for about 30 seconds, thinking about quantum physics and cosmic responsibility and the fate of humanity. Then he looked at his cold coffee and sighed. The cube was exactly the right size to set his coffee mug on top of. Jake picked up his coffee mug and carefully placed it on top of the black cube. The moment the ceramic touched the smooth surface, the cube began to glow softly. The temperature of his coffee went from cold to perfectly warm in about 3 seconds. He lifted the mug and took a sip. It was exactly the right temperature, not too hot and not too cold. "Well, that's convenient," Jake said to himself. He set the mug back down on the cube and watched as tiny lights danced inside the black material. The coffee stayed at the perfect drinking temperature. Jake spent the next hour working on his Mars rock reports while enjoying the best cup of coffee he had ever had. Every time he took a sip and put the mug back down, the cube kept the coffee at exactly the right warmth. He did not think about quantum physics or cosmic responsibility or the fate of humanity. He thought about how nice it was to have warm coffee. For once, when he finally went to bed that night, Jake moved the cube to his nightstand and put a glass of water on top of it. The water stayed cool and fresh all night long. The next morning, Jake brought the cube back to his office and set up his usual coffee routine. His research partner, Dr. Lisa Parker, arrived at 8:30, carrying her own mug of coffee and a stack of papers about ancient Martian settlements. "Morning, Jake," Lisa said as she walked into his office. She stopped and stared at his desk. "What is that thing?" Jake looked up from his computer where he was typing notes about sediment layers. "What thing?" "That black cube under your coffee mug," Lisa said. "It's glowing." "Oh, that," Jake said casually. "It's the best coffee warmer in the solar system. Some aliens gave it to me yesterday." Lisa set down her papers and walked closer to Jake's desk. The cube was definitely glowing, with soft pulses of light moving through its dark surface. "Aliens gave you a coffee warmer?" "Well, they called it something else," Jake said. "Some kind of quantum amplifier thing. But it works great for keeping coffee warm. Want to try it?" Lisa stared at him. "Jake, are you feeling okay? Did you hit your head yesterday?" "I feel fine," Jake said. He picked up his mug and took a sip of perfectly heated coffee. "Better than fine, actually. This thing is amazing. Watch this." Jake moved his coffee mug to one side and placed Lisa's mug on the cube. Her lukewarm coffee began steaming as the temperature rose to the perfect level. Lisa's eyes went wide. Jake, what exactly did these aliens tell you about this device? Jake thought for a moment. They said it was made by some ancient species, called the architects. Something about reshaping matter at the quantum level. They gave me a whole list of safety rules, but honestly, I was mostly thinking about my cold coffee problem. Lisa sat down heavily in the chair across from Jake's desk. They gave you an alien artifact that can reshape matter, and you're using it as a coffee warmer? It's really good at it, Jake said defensively. Look, it's keeping your coffee at exactly 145 degrees. I checked with a thermometer this morning. Jake, this could be the most important discovery in human history. We should call the authorities or NASA or someone, Jake shrugged. The alien said they'd be back in a month to check on me. Until then, I'm enjoying the best coffee setup I've ever had. Lisa tried to explain the significance of first contact with alien life and the importance of properly studying unknown technology. Jake nodded and made appropriate listening sounds while testing whether the cube could also warm up a bagel. It could. The bagel came out perfectly toasted on both sides. By lunchtime, word had spread through the research station that Jake Morrison had the ultimate coffee warmer in his office. Dr. Kevin Walsh from the geology department stopped by to check it out. He placed his cup of tea on the cube and watched in amazement as it reached the perfect temperature. This is incredible, Jake, Kevin said. How does it work? I have no idea, Jake admitted, but it works every time. Soon other researchers were stopping by Jake's office during their breaks. Dr. Nancy Rodriguez from Atmospheric Studies brought her hot chocolate. Dr. Peter Kim from the biology lab tested it with soup. Professor Helen Brooks from Communications tried it with herbal tea. Every beverage came out at the perfect temperature. The cube seemed to understand exactly what temperature each drink should be. Coffee stayed at 145 degrees. Tea held steady at 160 degrees. Hot chocolate remained at 135 degrees. Cold drinks stayed cool without freezing. It's like it reads your mind, Nancy said as she sipped her perfectly heated hot chocolate. Maybe it does, Peter suggested. If it can reshape matter at the quantum level, maybe it can detect brain patterns too. Jake was not particularly interested in the technical explanations. He was more impressed by the fact that his office had become the most popular spot on the research station. People who had never spoken to him before were stopping by for warm beverages and friendly conversation. By the end of the week, Jake's coffee break had turned into an unofficial social hour. Every day at 3 o'clock, a dozen researchers would gather in his small office to enjoy perfectly heated drinks and talk about their work. The black cube sat in the center of Jake's desk like a high-tech lazy Susan, warming mugs and cups as people rotated them around the surface, Lisa continued, to insist that they should be studying the cube scientifically instead of using it as a beverage service. Jake continued to point out that it was working perfectly well for its current purpose, and that the aliens had not left an instruction manual anyway. What if it stops working? Lisa asked one afternoon as she watched Jake use the cube to reheat. Leftover pizza, then I'll be very sad, Jake said. But until then, I'm going to enjoy having the best break room on Luna Station. The cube pulsed with gentle light, keeping Jake's pizza at exactly the right temperature while several colleagues waited their turn to warm up their own snacks. Nobody thought about cosmic tests or galactic worthiness. They just enjoyed the simple pleasure of properly heated food and good company, made possible by the most dangerous artifact in the known universe. 3 weeks after the aliens had visited, Jake was having a great day. It was Pete Collins' birthday, and the maintenance crew had decided to throw a small party in Jake's office since it had the best coffee setup on the station. Pete was turning 55 and had worked at Luna Research Station for 12 years, fixing everything that broke, which was almost everything. Jake had moved some furniture around to make room for more people. The black cube sat in its usual spot on his desk, but now it had a birthday cake on a plate next to it. The cube seemed to understand that cake should be kept at room temperature, so it warmed the plate just enough to keep the chocolate frosting from getting hard. This is the best birthday party I've ever had, Pete said, holding a cup of perfectly heated coffee. My wife is going to be so jealous when I tell her about this magic coffee warmer. It's not magic, Lisa said from the corner where she was eating cake. It's advanced alien technology that Jake is completely misusing. If keeping cake warm is misusing it, then I don't want to use it right, Jake replied. He had put on a party hat that said "Happy Birthday" and was in an excellent mood. That was when the blue light appeared again. Everyone in the office stopped talking and stared as the light grew brighter. Jake recognized what was happening and quickly moved his coffee mug off the cube. Heads up everyone, we're about to have visitors. The light faded and Ambassador Vextara appeared in the middle of the office, along with the tree alien and the jellyfish alien from before. All three looked around at the party decorations, the birthday cake, and the dozen humans holding coffee cups and staring at them. Greetings, human Jake Morrison, Vextara said in its wind chime voice. We have returned to observe the results of your test with the quantum resonance amplifier. Oh, hi, Jake said cheerfully. Perfect timing. We're having a birthday party for Pete. Pete, these are the aliens I was telling you about. Aliens, this is Pete Collins from maintenance. Pete waved with his free hand. Nice to meet you. Thanks for the coffee warmer. It's changed my life. The three aliens looked confused. The tree alien rustled its metal leaves and spoke. We expected to find either a transcended human civilization or evidence of catastrophic failure. Instead, we find a birthday celebration. It's a good party, too, Jake said. The cake is chocolate with vanilla frosting. The cube has been keeping it at the perfect temperature. Ambassador Vextara moved closer to Jake's desk and stared at the quantum resonance amplifier. A plate with birthday cake sat on top of it, and the cube was glowing softly while maintaining the cake at exactly the right temperature. Human Jake Morrison, Vextara said slowly, you have placed food upon the architect artifact. Just for the party, Jake explained. Usually it's coffee. Mugs? Sometimes tea or hot chocolate? Yesterday, Dr. Kim used it to keep his soup warm while he was in a long meeting. The jellyfish alien floated closer, its tentacles waving in what might have been distress. You have been using the quantum resonance amplifier as a food warming device? The best food warming device in the solar system, Pete said proudly. Jake lets anyone use it. We've got people coming from the other research stations just to try it out. Lisa stepped forward and tried to explain the situation to the aliens. I've been telling Jake that this device should be studied properly. We should be running tests and analyzing its capabilities. Instead, he's turned it into the most popular coffee shop on Luna. Ambassador Vextara examined the cube more closely. The device appears to be functioning normally. The quantum matrices are stable. The energy output is within safe parameters. It paused and tilted its crystalline head. But these are not the readings we expected from a species attempting to unlock the secrets of the architects. We're not trying to unlock any secrets, Jake said. We're just trying to have warm coffee and good cake. Would you like some? The chocolate is really good. The tree alien made a sound like wind through metal branches. Do you not understand? The power contained within this artifact? It can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. It can reshape matter at the molecular level. It can tear holes in the fabric of space and time. Jake nodded thoughtfully. That's probably why it's so good at heating things evenly. No hot spots or cold spots, just perfect temperature all the way through. Dr. Nancy Rodriguez raised her hand like she was in school. I have a question for the aliens. How exactly is this thing supposed to be used? Because Jake's way seems to work pretty well. The jellyfish alien bubbled in what sounded like frustration. The previous species that received this device spent decades studying its properties before attempting activation. They built massive laboratories and assembled teams of their greatest scientists. What happened to them? Pete asked while cutting himself another piece of cake. They turned their home star into a black hole, Vextara admitted. And the species before that? They transcended physical reality but lost the ability to interact with normal matter, the tree alien said. And before that? Temporal paradox. They erased themselves from the timeline. Jake looked around at his friends eating cake and drinking perfectly heated beverages. So what you're saying is that everyone who tried to use this thing the right way either died horribly or disappeared completely. That is correct, Vexthara said. But we've been using it as a coffee warmer for 3 weeks and everyone is. Fine. That also appears to be correct. Jake grinned and raised his coffee mug. Then I think we're doing something right. Cheers to Pete on his birthday, and cheers to the best coffee warmer in the galaxy. Everyone in the office raised their drinks and said, "Cheers," while the 3 aliens stood in the middle of the room looking more confused than any advanced galactic civilization should ever look. The party continued around them, with humans eating cake and drinking warm beverages, while casually ignoring the fact that they had apparently solved one of the universe's greatest puzzles by complete accident. 2 days after the birthday party, Jake arrived at his office to find 3 new aliens waiting for him. These ones looked much more serious than the first group. One was covered in what looked like battle armor and had 6 arms, each ending in sharp claws. Another was floating in some kind of mechanical suit with weapons attached to it. The third looked like a walking computer with blinking lights all over its body. "Human Jake Morrison," the armored alien said in a voice like grinding metal. "I am War Master Krell of the Hegemony Fleet. This is Scholar Prime Yelena of the Academic Consortium, and Battletech Unit 6 of the Cyber Collective." Jake set down his coffee mug and looked at the 3 intimidating visitors. "Let me guess, you're here about the coffee warmer too?" The floating alien in the mechanical suit spoke with a voice that sounded like a robot having a bad day. The Zephyrin Council has reported impossible readings from your facility. We are here to investigate claims that humans have somehow domesticated an architect artifact. Domesticated might be a strong word, Jake said. I'd say we've just found a really good use for it. The computer-looking alien blinked its lights rapidly. Our records show that the quantum resonance amplifier has destroyed 17 civilizations and caused 3 others to vanish from normal spacetime. Yet your species appears to be using it for food preparation. Food warming, Jake corrected. Though it does work great for keeping soup from getting cold during long meetings. War Master Krell moved closer to Jake's desk where the black cube sat quietly. "Show us how you operate this device, human." Jake shrugged and placed his coffee mug on top of the cube. It began to glow softly, and his coffee went from room temperature to perfectly hot in a few seconds. Like that? Pretty simple, really? The 3 aliens stared at the cube as if it might explode at any moment. Scholar Prime Yelena's mechanical suit made whirring sounds as she scanned the device. The quantum energy readings are stable. The matter displacement is minimal. The temporal distortion is within acceptable parameters. That's good, right? Jake asked. It should be impossible, Battletech Unit 6 said, its lights blinking faster. Previous species required massive installations and years of preparation just to safely activate this device. You appear to have achieved perfect harmony with it using no safety protocols whatsoever. I wouldn't say no safety protocols, Jake said. I always make sure my mug is clean before I put it on there. War Master Krell examined the cube from different angles. Our intelligence reports indicate that you have made modifications to the artifact structure. Oh yeah, Jake said. It stopped working right last Tuesday. I fixed it. All 3 aliens froze. Scholar Prime Yelena's voice came out as a mechanical whisper. You modified an architect device? Well, fixed is probably a better word. The humming sound it makes was getting really annoying, and then it started heating coffee too hot. So I opened it up and poked around a bit. Battletech Unit 6's lights went completely dark for a moment. You opened an architect artifact and manipulated its internal components? Sure, had to use a screwdriver and some electrical tape, but I got it working better than before. Want to see? Before any of the aliens could object, Jake picked up the cube and showed them the bottom. There was a small panel that had been removed and reattached with what appeared to be regular earth adhesive tape. Inside, they could see tiny wires that Jake had clearly moved around and reconnected in different places. The original wiring was kind of messy, Jake explained. I cleaned it up a bit and added a better ground connection. Now it runs quieter and maintains temperature more accurately. War Master Krell's claws scraped against his armor. You rewired the quantum matrices of an architect device using primitive tools and adhesive materials. And it works better now, Jake said proudly. The temperature control is much more precise. Plus, it doesn't make that annoying buzzing sound anymore. Scholar Primulena was taking detailed scans of Jake's modifications. This is unprecedented. The human has somehow improved the efficiency of the device by approximately 18%, while reducing its energy output by 12%. That's because I fixed the feedback loop in the primary circuit, Jake said. It was causing unnecessary oscillations in the quantum field generators. The three aliens stared at him. Battletech Unit Zik spoke first. Human Jake Morrison, do you have training in quantum physics or advanced engineering? Not really, Jake admitted. I took a few electronics classes in college, and I'm pretty good at fixing things around the house. My toaster was making a similar buzzing sound last year, so I figured the same fix might work. You used toaster repair techniques on an architect. Artifact? War Master Krell asked. Basic electrical troubleshooting applies to most devices, Jake said. You just have to be careful not to electrocute yourself or accidentally create a black hole. Dr. Lisa Parker chose that moment to walk into the office carrying her morning coffee. She stopped when she saw the three heavily armed aliens standing around Jake's desk. More visitors? She asked. These are investigators, Jake explained. They're here to figure out how we're using the coffee warmer so successfully. Lisa looked at the aliens, then at Jake, then at the cube. Did you tell them about your modifications? He showed us the modifications, Scholar Primulena said in a stunned, mechanical voice. He improved an architect device using adhesive tape and basic electrical principles. Jake's always been good at fixing things, Lisa said. Last month he got the ice machine working again with a paper clip and some chewing gum. War Master Krell sat down heavily in one of Jake's chairs, which creaked under the weight of his armor. We may need to completely revise our understanding of human capabilities. The investigation continued for several hours, with the aliens asking detailed questions about Jake's repair methods while he demonstrated the improved coffee warming functions. By the end of the day, they seemed more confused than when they had arrived. 1 month later, the Luna research station was busier than it had ever been. Ships from dozens of different alien civilizations had been arriving every day, and Jake's small office had become the most visited location in the solar system. The hallway outside his door was always crowded with beings that looked like nothing he had ever imagined. Ambassador Vexthora had returned with what seemed like half the galactic government. They had set up a temporary headquarters in the station's main conference room, where alien diplomats spent their days having very serious discussions about humanity and coffee-warming technology. Jake was sitting at his desk, enjoying his morning coffee and reading a report about some new rocks from Europa, when the door opened and a parade of important-looking aliens filed into his office. Ambassador Vexthara led the group, followed by beings that looked like walking plants, floating crystals, mechanical spiders, and things that Jake could not even begin to describe. Human Jake Morrison, Vexthara announced, the Galactic Council, has reached a decision regarding your species and your unique approach to architect technology. Jake looked up from his rock report. That's nice. Would anyone like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot. A being that looked like a walking cactus with too many eyes stepped forward. I am High Chancellor Morpheus of the Unified Worlds. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I am here to formally welcome humanity into the galactic community. Cool? Jake said. Does that come with any benefits? Like a membership card or something? The mechanical spider alien clicked its legs together. Your species has demonstrated a level of practical wisdom that we have never encountered before. You have succeeded where countless advanced civilizations have failed. We just made really good coffee, Jake said. I wouldn't call that wisdom. A floating crystal that sparkled with inner light spoke in a voice like singing bells. You took a device capable of destroying star systems and turned it into a tool for bringing people together. You have shown that the most advanced technology serves its best purpose when it improves daily life. Jake nodded and took a sip of his perfectly heated coffee. That makes sense. What good is fancy technology if it doesn't make life better? Hi. Chancellor Morpheus gestured with what might have been arms. The Council has prepared a formal treaty of membership, along with access to galactic trade networks, advanced scientific knowledge, and cultural exchange programs. That sounds great, Jake said. But I should probably mention that I'm just an archaeologist. You might want to talk to someone in the government about the official stuff. The Council has already been in contact with your planetary leaders, Ambassador Vexthara said. However, we specifically requested to meet with you first, as the human who successfully mastered architect technology. Jake looked around at the crowd of aliens filling his small office. I'm not sure I mastered anything. I just figured out that it makes a really good coffee warmer. A cactus being made a sound that might have been laughter. That is exactly why your species is ready for galactic citizenship. You saw a problem and found the simplest solution. Dr. Lisa Parker squeezed through the crowd of aliens to reach Jake's desk. Jake, there are reporters from 17 different news networks outside. They want to interview the human who conquered the most dangerous artifact in the galaxy. I didn't conquer anything, Jake protested. I just needed warm coffee. A jellyfish-like alien floating near the ceiling spoke in a bubbly voice. The Council has also prepared a gift to honor your achievement. Two smaller aliens that looked like mechanical beetles rolled a large box into the office. Hi, Chancellor. Morpheus opened the box and pulled out another black cube, this one slightly larger than the first and covered in glowing symbols. This is a reality synthesis matrix, the Chancellor explained. It is even more powerful than the quantum resonance amplifier. Previous civilizations have used devices like this to reshape entire planets or create pocket dimensions. Jake looked at the new cube with interest. What happened to those civilizations? Most of them accidentally erased themselves from existence, Ambassador Vexthara admitted. One species turned their entire solar system into pure energy. Another created a time loop that trapped them for 10,000 years. But we believe humans will find a more practical application. The crystal being sang. Jake carefully took the reality synthesis matrix and examined it. It was warm to the touch and hummed softly like a contented cat. He set it down on his desk next to the first cube and placed his empty coffee mug on top of it. The new device immediately began to glow, and Jake's mug filled with fresh, perfectly brewed coffee at exactly the right temperature. The coffee was the best he had ever tasted, rich and smooth with just the right amount of caffeine. Oh, wow, Jake said after taking a sip. This one makes coffee instead of just warming it up. The crowd of aliens stared in amazement as Jake tested the new device. When he placed a plate on it, the plate filled with a sandwich that was exactly what he wanted for lunch. When Lisa put her empty water bottle on it, the bottle filled with cold, fresh water. It reads what you want and creates it, Jake observed. That's incredibly useful. Dr. Peter Kim from the biology lab pushed through the crowd. Jake, can you ask it to make more coffee cups? We're going to need them for all our visitors. Jake placed several empty mugs on the reality synthesis matrix, and they all filled with perfect coffee tailored to each person's preferences. The aliens watched in fascination as the humans began sharing drinks and snacks created by the most dangerous device in known existence. Unbelievable, whispered War Master Krell, who had returned to observe the ceremony. They turned a reality-altering weapon into a coffee machine. High Chancellor Morpheus shook what might have been his head. We will need to completely revise our protocols for testing young civilizations. Ambassador Vexthara looked around at the happy humans enjoying coffee and conversation while casually using universe-ending technology as kitchen appliances. Perhaps the test was never about mastering the devices. Perhaps it was about understanding what truly matters. Jake raised his mug of perfectly synthesized coffee in a toast. Here's to good coffee, good friends, and really useful alien technology. The office filled with the sounds of celebration as beings from across the galaxy joined together for what was probably the most important coffee break in cosmic history.